Hey guys, Doug here with more Draw Doug Draw. So I think from now on with these videos, I'm going to be breaking them down into 3 sections so I can kind of keep things more of like an organized video journal for myself. And then, also have some fun stuff to talk about too. So I think for the first section of these, I'm going to talk about progress report on where I currently am on my comic. Second section, I'll talk about what we're watching in the video right now, and third section I want to start doing top 5 lists of things I like, so kind of give you guys an idea of what some of my tastes are. So yeah, progress report. Where are we right now? Right now I'm working on chapter 2 of my comic Ultimate Theater, which you can read online, chapter 1 right now at ultimatetheater.com. That's ultimate-theater.com. There's a link in the description below. Yeah, right now I've finished the outline for chapter 2, and I'm breaking it down and doing the storyboards right now. I plan to be releasing it in chunks this time instead of how I released chapter 1 as one whole thing at once, just because I figure it'll be a little bit easier to maintain release schedules if I'm releasing it sort of a scene at a time, and these scenes are about, they can be anywhere from like 8 to 16 pages or so. So close to a standard comic issue. So yeah, right now I have half of chapter 2 already storyboarded. So that's basically parts 1 and part 2 are storyboarded. And by storyboards, I mean pretty much what you're looking at here. These are my storyboards that I start out in my thumbnails, that I draw in my little sketchbooks first when I'm planning out the comic. Yeah, so I'm just moving along with that, hoping to have it finished by the end of the week. Now what are we watching in this video? Well, this is the stage 1 of after I've scanned my thumbnails and brought them into Sketchbook Pro to start working on the finished art. First thing I do is lay out all my panels, and I like to do things a scene chunk at a time. So this is pages 37 through 44, I believe, out of chapter 1 of my comic. And yeah, just the one thing I kind of realized I'm going to be changing now I'm looking at this is I was using the straight line tool to set up my panels. A lot of it I think was because I had diagonal lines on a lot of these pages, but I gotta start using the square tool to make things go faster. But yeah, this is just me using the straight line tool, regular pencil at 0.15 width. Tell you a little bit about this scene here. This is the scene right before the game begins in the comic, and sort of Nobunaga giving his players a rallying speech to before they get ready to start playing, and kind of give a little bit of a warm-up for the viewers to watch as the Kappa display their watercraft. Watercraft is basically water magic that all the Kappa possess. Like, it sort of was a universal thing. I wanted the Kappa to have something that made them amazing to kind of counter the fact that they have such a goofy weakness with the bubble on their heads. So I figured this cool water magic would be a fun little thing to draw and have in battles and stuff like that. And then I took it a little bit further when I thought it'd be really funny that the one thing that the Kappas are actually good at, our hero Doc sucks at. So he has to compensate even further with other things to to work around his weakness of not being very strong in his watercraft. And it's sort of a fun little gag to illustrate right here. So yeah, that's what we're looking at right here. And now to go on to my top 5. For the first top 5 I think I'm going to talk about today is the top 5 most influential artists I can come up with off the top of my head. These are the guys who stick with me probably the most, whose art I like to draw studies of the most, or who I thought of for certainly the most while I was making this comic over the last year and a half while drawing it. Number 1, Eiichiro Oda, the creator of One Piece, the most popular manga in the world, and for good reason. It is an absolute masterpiece. I love One Piece so much. It's probably my favorite comic I've ever read. It's been going on for 20 years. I started reading it about 15 years ago, I started reading when I was like 20 or so. And I remember it took me a while before, it wasn't always my favorite comic, but as time kind of moved on and the quality of it still stayed the same, I kind of realized, I'm like, dude, I'm still enjoying this thing like 15 years down the line, where a lot of manga I've read, or even just comics I've read for that long, been going on that long, I feel I've kind of like fell off or even just ended. And One Piece still engages me. The art, the story, the comedy, it's just absolutely amazing. So yeah, number 1, One Piece. Eiichiro Oda for One Piece. Number 2 most influential artist would be Will Eisner. I absolutely love Will Eisner's art. He's an American cartoonist, kind of came up in the golden age era of comics. I think it was like the 40s through the 60s, basically. He drew his whole life, so. But he probably the most famous for creating his superhero comic book strip, The Spirit. Funny thing is, that's not what I really like of his. I've read some of The Spirit. I never read a lot of it, but what I've enjoyed most from Will Eisner has always been his New York stories, like Contract with God, The Dreamer. All his stuff was sort of a slice of life, little New York melodramas that of like kind of like, they seem like they're all set in the 40s or 30s era. But yeah, I love reading his like human tales. They're just so great. And yeah, his art has always been top tier in my book. So yeah, that's number 2, Will Eisner. Number 3, Frank Frazetta. I love Frank Frazetta. Frank Frazetta is amazing comic book artist, illustrator, movie poster artist, oil painter. He's probably most famous for his fantasy art, like oil paintings, all the pulp fantasy novel covers they did for Conan the Barbarian back in the day. He kind of created that iconic image of Conan the Barbarian and made it as popular as it was. I mean, I know Robert E. Howard wrote the thing, but I'm more than sure Frank Frazetta's artwork is like what really kind of like got people to pick the books up off the stand. Yeah, so Frank Frazetta has always been a favorite of mine, and in all my time I've been studying anatomy, I always find that I keep going back to look at his work the most to like learn from him and Loomis right now. But yeah, I love Frank Frazetta so much. So Frank Frazetta is my number 3. Number 4, it's a tie actually between Akira Toriyama, creator of Dragon Ball, and Doug TenNapel, who is American comic artist who's created such great comics as Ghostopolis, Earthboy Jacobus, Gear, Monster Zoo, Bad Island. Recently he did this awesome trilogy called Newts, and he created one of my favorite Super Nintendo games back in the day, Earthworm Jim. So yeah, Doug TenNapel is like huge talent. Akira Toriyama, I probably don't need to tell you who he's the creator of Dragon Ball, like one of the most famous comics of all time. Looking back at Akira Toriyama's work, the funny thing is I've actually, middle school through high school, Dragon Ball Z, like most high school kids into anime, it's like one of your favorite things. I love Dragon Ball Z so much, but as I've kind of grown up, I've really, really come to love more his earlier work of Dragon Ball and Dr. Slump. Stuff where he kind of used a little bit more rounder forms in his drawings, and he had this sort of like, I don't know, it just has a little bit more of appeal to me when he had like these like little kung fu toddlers and these kind of like kung fu flour sack bodies. And I don't know, I do a lot of drawing studies off of that stuff these days and for practice, and yeah, I really, really love old school Dragon Ball art. So yeah, number 4, that's Akira Toriyama and Doug TenNapel, tie. Number 5 was, I was thinking about this because I still have a lot of artists, but one of the ones who I was thinking of the most actually while I was making this, drawing this chapter was, old school, Dr. Seuss. Who doesn't love Dr. Seuss growing up? I love Dr. Seuss, and his sense of, sense of charm, in his artwork, his sense of charm with his words, and simplicity of how he could get you, young reader, engaged. That was something I was thinking of a lot when I was working on this, I think, and trying to like make it, because I want my comic to appeal to kids. I want it to appeal to everybody, but I definitely want like kids to be able to read it and kind of get that fun adventure feel that would kind of get them engaged and want to come back and read some more. So I kind of kept thinking a little bit of how Dr. Seuss books read and how they would like hold my attention a lot when I was growing up. So, and I still love his art. His art's amazing. And so, yeah, he was definitely huge influence on me, obviously growing up. And yeah, so that's why he's my number 5. And here we are at the end of the video. Some of the showing you what the final art looks like here. If you want to read more, if you want to read the entire first chapter, you can find it online at ultimate-theater.com. I'll be back here soon with another video for y'all. Alright, have a good night.